All right. Well, thank you, Rich, for that kind introduction. Welcome, everybody. As Rich indicated, I am the CCI training currently in Boston, Massachusetts, where the weather is very nice and clear and not as hot as it is in Southern California, where I am normally based. Today, what we are going to discuss over the next about 45 minutes, we're going to talk about the XenApp 7.5 features, and I'm also going to mention some of the newer features that you may see inside of the XenApp 7.6, which should be coming out hopefully within the next week or so. You may have heard about some of the new features that are coming out for the XenApp 7.6. So this will be a combination class where I'm going to do some PowerPoint presentations for you to view the information, and I will also be doing some demonstrations within the XenApp 7.5 environment for how to publish applications and some of the newer features that you will have. So there are some changes and some exciting stuff that are coming down the road. So what are some of the new features that XenApp 7.5 has that we have available for you to use as administrators? Well, got a lot of the components. We have support for seamless local applications. This is a new feature that you're going to see inside of the 7.5 environment, in that it allows your users to have locally installed applications, and you are able to publish those applications out so that the user can use those within the session running on a XenApp server, the machines running the applications. So you have a local application installed. They'll run it using the local resources, the CPU, RAM, hard drive on the local machine, but from the user's perspective, it's going to be running in the session on the remote server. So that's a nice new feature that you can use if you have particular applications that need to have some licensing components, that may have some processing components on your system, or even for security. Also, the XenApp 7.5 uses the new FlexCast management architecture. This is a different architecture from the XenApp 6.5. It gives you a little bit more scalability on your environment, as well as giving the ability to, you'll excuse me, I got some students in class here. It gives you the ability to scale up your system a little bit more, eliminate some of the issues that we experience with the local host cache in the environment. We've also got the ability to do some hybrid cloud provisioning. Now, this is a nice new feature if you're using Amazon.com Cloud or the Citrix Cloud, where you can provision your controllers or your XenApp machines in the cloud environment. This is really a nice feature for when you need to expand on your networks or come into the system and get additional machines, and you don't have the financial resource to do that, so you can install these on the cloud. We've also got AppDNA. AppDNA is a program and feature that allows you to stress test applications before you publish them out to your users. This will allow you to ensure that you don't publish an app out on your system that is going to cause problems for your servers. Also, we have remote PC access, and that really is dependent upon which version of the XenApp you have. So remote PC access allows you to use physical machines to in your office. Your users will then be able to come through Storefront or Web Interface 5.4 and access those remote PCs from their home systems or remotely. We've also got the new receiver in Storefront. We're using Storefront 2.5, and there are some new features in Storefront 2.5 that I'll hit on the system just momentarily. I'll also demonstrate one of the options you have via one of our access points that we use in our own environment. So those are some of the overall features that we have. Well, one of the nicest things about XenApp 7.5 is its simplified management. This is the ability of an administrator to come in and manage your components from fewer consoles than we are used to in the past. We have three main consoles that we use. We have Citrix Studio that is used inside of our environment to create and manage all your applications inside of your environment. We've got Storefront Console, which is used to configure and manage your storefront deployment, which is the replacement for Web Interface 5.4, which is still supported through 2016 for the 7.5 environment. And then we have Citrix CPU load, etc., things of that nature. The Citrix Director is a amalgamation of the former Edge site component into the former desktop director, and so now we have a new component that we can manage and watch everything. And so if we look at those particular components, I already have them pre-staged for us to look at. You'll see this is our Citrix Studio, and it's within this studio that we have the ability to come in and manage our environment. And we have some additional features that you don't see inside of XenApp 6.5. One of them you're going to see, which is different, is the creation of what are called delivery groups. Now, delivery groups take the place of worker groups. We no longer have worker groups, so we deal with delivery groups in for load balancing, setting group policy on our system, as well as publishing applications in the system. So with our studio, we have this one console that we can come in and we can manage our environment. We also have within the studio, we now have a component for licensing. And the licensing component in the system allows you to look at and manage the licensing instead of having to go through group policy. So we know, this is the license management console. So we can look at exactly what licenses we have right within Studio rather than going to your license server. And as part of that, we can rapidly change our license server in the system just by going to this console, changing the address of the license server, no longer having to go through group policy if we need to do that. Additionally, you will have the ability to add in license administrator accounts, as well as download and allocate licensing right from the studio rather than having to go anywhere else. And you just click on a button and you're good to go. One other difference between XenApp and can be a good thing or a bad thing is the discontinuation of the streaming applications with XenApp 6.5 natively. Now the system uses the Microsoft AppV components for the streaming of applications. You still have the ability to stream. We just now are integrating the AppV management server and the publication server on the system for this. As part of this rollout, Citrix will be providing scripts to help you to convert your profiled applications for the Citrix environment into the AppV environment, so that'll make it very easy to use. The other component we do have the storefront, and this is our component where we can come in and we can manage our storefront servers in our environment. So we do have the ability to create stores on the system. Now, one of the differences between storefront and web interface is a requirement for security on the front end when the Citrix receiver comes in for the users. It does require server certificates in HTTPS and 443. So that's one little note you'll need to be aware of that's different from web interface, as well as storefront also allows your system to have additional security. Also with Storefront, we no longer have to install and create both the services site and a website that web interface requires. It's all done in one swoop. So you create a store, you now have receiver access, you now have web browser access, and users can come in and configure their receiver either via a base URL or using an email account. So we have that capability in the system. We also have the ability in Storefront to accommodate those users that do not have the authority or rights to install receiver on their system. And when we do that, the user can come in, and let me pull this up here real quick. When the user comes into the system, we can choose to use either receiver access, and Storefront will also allow you to use HTML5. So you have that capability to use HTML5 rather than receiver access in the environment. This is to accommodate those users that do not have the receiver installer in the system, and they're not allowed to do that on the system. The other component we have for managing our system is Citrix Director. And Citrix Director is the component that we use in the environment to manage our system. So I'm going to log on to the system to show you Director. I've already had some applications launched, so we've got the system ready to go so you can actually see something. Citrix Director will come in and provide you with a dashboard so that you can see what's going on inside of your environment right now in real time. Now, this is a real quick note on this particular meeting. If you have any particular questions, you can choose to send the questions to Rich through the GoToWebinar dashboard through the chat. You can just send that message out, and those questions will go to Rich. So if you have any questions, send those out, and we'll take those questions at the end of the webinar to improve the flow. So at the end, Rich will read the questions to me, and we'll be good to go. Okay. So getting back to the Citrix Director, this is our monitoring console. This is where you can monitor what's going on in your system. And on the dashboard, you'll notice I've got 3 components up here at the top. Each one of them has green, which is a good thing. We want to see green. But if I expand these out and look at these, this is where we're going to see failures. Fortunately, I'm green, so I have 0 failures in my network. It means I did something right when I set this up. So I have 0 failures. But if I had a failure, the number would indicate the number of failures I have for, say, user connections. It would tell me what type of connection the failure triggered and where did it trigger that connection. So I currently have some Office apps published and some server desktops. Currently, I don't have any errors in the system. This will give me an indication of what's happening. You'll notice over here on the right, we have a bar graph. The bar graph allows you to look at what's been going on in your network for the last 60 minutes. So we have that last 60-minute chart that we can look at. If we need to, we can click on historical trends. I can click on View Historical Trends, and this will allow me to come in and look at what's been going on in the network over a customized period of time. So I'm looking at the last 24 hours, what's been going on in the last 24 hours for connection failures, number of sessions. You'll see where I launched these. You can see yesterday at 2 p.m. I launched these sessions, so they're up and running to tell you what's been going on. So I can look at these at a customizable time frame rather than just a 1-hour system. So I can do 24 hours, last 7 days, last month, etc. So I can look at particular components, connection failure, failed desktop, failed server, log-on performance, how's my log-on been going in the system, as well as I can look at my load evaluator index, what's been going on with my servers over a period of time based on the load evaluators that I have defined on the system. I'm going to go back to the dashboard and show you some other features. This one I can collapse this guy out. And if you have no failures, all you're going to see will be the sessions connected. This will tell you how many sessions you currently have in your system, what's been the average logon duration, and then basically what's been going on inside of your infrastructure system with your hypervisor and your delivery controllers, which take the place of the XenApp servers inside of XenApp 6.5. If I need to tunnel down even further in Director, I can click on Sessions Connected, and this will pull me down and show me all the users that are connected inside of my environment and what they're running in the system. I have the option of choosing a user account, sending messages to those users. I can then log users off or disconnect them. I can choose what I want to look at. I can base it on, I can sort it by delivery group. I have some features on a global scale. But if I'm more interested in seeing what's going on in a particular user, for instance, I've got HR user 1 is running an application and the administrator is running both a server desktop and an application, I can search for a user. So I'll just search for the administrator. And this will pull up an activities page for this particular user. Will show me what's been going on for the user. He's currently running Calculator on the system. Notice it says remote hosted, so it's on the server. We've also got the user also running a server desktop, and on the server desktop, he's running Excel via a receiver connection. So we have different options running on the system. Well, this gives you an at a glance of the activity of the user, but if I want to tunnel down even further, I can choose to look at the details for that particular section and see what's going on the system. So you'll notice over here, this is the activities manager that we have on the system, which we just saw has been shrunk down. Now we can look at the machine details that the user's on. We can come in, we can power control the machine. For start, we shut it down. We can kick the machine into maintenance mode, which will prevent any new connections from being brokered. And then we can come in with the session and control the session and shadow the session. Now the shadowing you see inside of XenApp 7.5 is not the shadowing that's used in 6.5. This is just using your Microsoft Remote Assistance. And then I can further time down and look at, well, how long did the logon take? I can see what policies have been affecting this user in the environment. So if you have any policies that are affecting the user, you'll see that. I can also look at the system and come down, and I can look at the personalization that's been set up. Am I using a roaming profile solution, either AppSense, Citrix roaming profiles, and am I using a personal vDisk on the system? This would not be applicable on this particular machine because it is a server desktop. So this is our Citrix Director component that we have available to us in the environment. So these are your three consoles, and you can using these at different times in your environment. With Studio, you'll use it to configure your resources. Storefront, you use it to create your website, and then you're done. Director, your help desk is going to use this on an ongoing basis. So what can you install the XenApp 7.5 environment on? We have the ability to install 7.5 onto a Windows Server 2012, 2012 R2, or Windows 2008 R2 environment. We have 100 megabytes. And we're going to have some .NET 3.5 for the 2008 R2. It's a good practice to install the .NET 3.5 on a 2012 as well, just for some backwards compatibility in your environment. So basic hardware requirements. Hypervisor supports the big three, 6.2, 6.0 or 2 or higher runs in server, hypervisor, Hyper-V, SCVMM. We were discussing that in my class just the other day, and VMware. So it supports all the hypervisors, so whichever one you choose to use, it should work on. And there are some on Citrix eDocs, there is a hypervisor compatibility chart. SQL Server, now this is a big departure from the XenApp 6.5 environment. We no longer have the localhost cache, so the SQL Server becomes a fully relational database, and it takes the place of that localhost cache in the environment. And it does support SQL Server 2012 Service Pack 1, Express Standard or Enterprise Edition. It will also support 2008 R2 Service Pack 2, Express Standard Enterprise, and Data Center Edition on the SQL Server. Now, these databases can be, for your environment, can be configured in a standalone configuration, clustered or mirrored, except for the SQL Server Express Edition, which is only in standalone mode, but there are ways of using that Express when you're creating a mirrored implementation of using a full version of SQL Server for your principal and your mirror, and then using the Express version for your witness. So that will save you some dollars when you're looking at licensing and creating machines on the system. We can also use the always-on availability feature of the SQL Server 2012. This is great for large enterprise environments. It doesn't have the fast turnaround that you're going to see on the with the mirror in the system. One other change is we no longer support SQL Server authentication. Now we have to use Windows authentication, and Oracle is no longer supported as well. So these are some differences on our system. So when we're looking at XenApp 7.5, we want to look at the architecture. The architecture is significantly different from the XenApp 6.5 in that when we're looking at our architecture, we no longer have multiple XenApp servers. We no longer have data collectors. Now we just have a machine called a delivery controller. And you're going to have one or two or however many delivery controllers you're going to use inside of your system. You're going to have a delivery controller inside of your system that is key to managing and brokering connections. So we've got our Storefront server, which our users are coming in, or web interface. We will have Active Directory, and you'll notice we have our SQL Server, which we're going to be using in a mirrored setup for ensuring high availability in the environment. So the delivery controller will need to contact the SQL Server database for load balancing decisions, what applications a user has, what servers to send those users to. So everything's going to be stored in the SQL Server database. So it's important that that database be up and running. And when we're looking at our database, we're going to have 3 databases that are configured by default when you install XenApp. We're going to have our site database, and the site database is going to maintain all of the information that the previous data store had. It will also contain a configuration database, or a config log database, and it will also contain automatically, you don't need to do anything, a monitoring database that is used by Citrix Director. So one of the best practices when you're installing your XenApp 7.5 environment is to pull these two logs out and make them separate in your system. So you need to ensure you have log space for the logs. And if you're looking at sizes, the monitor log will be the largest log, about 5 to 7 times larger than the site log, when the config log will be the smallest one in your system. So we have that delivery controller sitting in the system. We still have license server. We've got Studio and Director that we are using in our environment. So that's the basic architecture, but that delivery controller sits at the middle of everything. And we no longer have, inside of XenApp, we no longer have a multi-master configuration. In XenApp 6.5, you had 100 XenApp servers. You've got 100 machines, and you need to ensure that you've updated all your applications and you've installed all your applications. Now we have a single master feature where your delivery controllers do nothing but broker connections. They take the place of your XML brokers. So they'll do nothing but broker connections into the environment. What will be providing your applications will be your server desktops or your Windows desktop OS machines if you're doing VM hosted applications. So these machines are going to be controlling everything, and these will all be based off of one machine. So you'll create one server with all your apps. You use that one server to deploy those applications out to your users. And I will show you this in just a second when we go to publish apps, because that's what everybody's here for. How do you publish apps inside of your environment? Well, when we're looking at our XenApp environment and we want to look at how do we do high availability and where are we looking at, we look at a chunk model of our environment and how we provide high availability in the system. So we do have the ability, we have our users, we break it up into user level. All we're really concerned with the user level is that we do have Citrix Receiver. We have our access layer, which encompasses your storefront, and best practices usually have 2 storefront servers for high availability with the use of NetScaler, usually having 2 NetScalers in your system for load balancing. Then we have our control layer inside the environment where we have our delivery controller, where the delivery controller is going to broker connections into multiple servers on your system, as well as our other infrastructure. And then the resource layer, which deals with what resources. Are we dealing with server operating systems for a desktop for giving to our users? We still have that capability. And do we have the ability to publish out applications for our users? So these are the resource layer. And then part of that is personalization. How do we want to personalize the user sessions? Where are we getting their profile from? Are we using Citrix Profile Management, roaming profile? What are we using? As well as setting up group policy, and then some personal features if you're using it. And the hardware layer deals with our hypervisor. And then we have the various and sundry administration consoles that we can use inside of XenApp 7.5, which really hasn't changed. We've got Studio, which is in place of your XenApp App Center. We've got Citrix Director, which is in place of both EdgeSite, App Center, as well as Desktop Director. Storefront console replaces the web interface console. PVS is an optional console if you're using provisioning services inside of your system, which is a very nice feature for rapidly deploying new machines. And then obviously your hypervisor console, your license administration console. And still out there is the merchandising server console for updating your environment. Well, big thing is we want to deploy applications. And this is where we're going to come in and we're going to talk about how do you deploy applications inside of our environment. What do we do to deploy applications? And I'm going to bounce over to a whiteboard program and diagram something for you very quickly, just to show you where the difference is in the system. We have what's called in XenApp 6.5. We have a multi-master system. And in the multi-master system, what you would have is you're going to have multiple XenApp servers inside of your environment, and you needed to ensure that if you installed an application on the machine, so if I installed Microsoft Office on my XenApp servers, that I had to have XenApp server installed on each one of these, I needed to ensure that when I was working on this, that I installed Microsoft Office on each XenApp server. If I didn't have it installed, a user could be shunted to that particular machine and they would get an error message because it no longer exists. So that's the multi-master. Then whenever I came in and did updates, I would need to update those. Now with XenApp 7.5, now we use a single master system. We're going to use what's called a single master system, and put my hand on the keyboard. We're going to use a single master system, whereby we create one machine, and we're going to create, on this one, we're going to create a server 2012. I'll install all of my applications on the server 2012, then I will take that machine, and I'm going to clone him out, or the system's going to clone him out. Let's get my arrow in here. So we'll take that single master system, and we'll clone him out to multiple machines inside of our environment. They'll all be identical to the master in our system. So we'll have those machines in there. They'll all be identical. Then I'll take these machines here, and I'll publish apps based on all of these machines. And since they're all clones of the master, they will automatically have the application I want. Well, how does that work in practice? How does it actually work? And it's actually a much easier way of publishing apps than you're used to. So I'm going to go back to my system over here. I'm going to go to my studio. And you'll notice inside of my studio, I have what's called machine catalogs, and I have delivery groups. Machine catalogs relate to the machines that we have created using a master machine. So if I were to look at my environment in this system here, if I go look at my hypervisor, we'll show you where the master machine is. And then we're going to take that master machine, we will have cloned him out multiple times in the system. So he's going to pop up here. So I'm in my hypervisor management console, which you'll use. I've got a Windows 2012 master. This is the machine that I use to create and deploy applications and desktops. And I created multiple servers from one master machine. So now I've got that one master machine. I want to publish out some applications. So I've got currently I created a delivery group for publishing out applications. You'll notice I currently already have some applications in my system. So I've got these applications published, a calculator, Excel, and PowerPoint installed. So I'm going to quickly roll out Microsoft Word. So I'm on my delivery group. It says Office Apps. I will right mouse click on my delivery group. I'm going to add in a new application. And this is one of the features that differentiates this from XenApp 6.5. It will query one of the servers and ask the server, hey, what do you have installed on you? It'll pull down the applications that are currently installed. All I need to do to rapidly deploy new applications is click on these applications, and then they are now going to be installed. So there's Word. I'm going to install Word. I'm going to install Publisher, and we're good to go. I'll click Next, and now I've got some applications published for my users. So if I go over to an endpoint device where I've got a system running, and I'll go ahead and close this guy out. Cancel that guy. And close out this guy here. I'm on my system here, and let's go ahead and minimize this just a little bit so I have more room. So if I come into the system here and I go to my receiver, the receiver is going to show me what applications are currently installed on this particular user, and I'm going to refresh my apps, just verify it. So I'm going to look at my apps that are in here. We're going to come into Storefront here in just a moment. And you'll see I don't have Word installed, so I'm going to refresh my apps. And the system is contacting the controllers in the environment. Please contact the SQL Server database. Now it's done. I'll come in. Now you'll see I've got Word, and I've got the Publisher installed as an application. Now I've got these applications ready for my users to come in and use. So I was able to rapidly deploy these applications using the system. Well, we also have some other features. I'm going to what we call unsubscribe to an application. I'm just going to unsubscribe to everything that this user has available to them. And we'll just take everything out. So by default, when a user first comes into the system, they're going to see nothing on their Citrix receiver. That's what they're going to see. So when we are publishing applications, we need to be aware of that, and we need to be aware that our users may have some concerns that they open up a blank screen. So we're going to publish some applications. I'm going to take and I'm going to choose that, the Microsoft Word is a mandatory application that I want everybody to have inside of my system. So I will right-click on that. I'm going to go in and I'm going to granularly fix the changes, configuration settings on the system. So there's the identification, same thing we saw on the web interface. I'm going to give it a keyword here. I'm going to give it a keyword, and I'm going to make this one a mandatory application. And say this is mandatory. We also have some other options we can give it on the system. We can give it some application folders, just as we did in web interface. I can define where the path to the application is, just like we did inside of web interface and XenApp 6.5, so you still have that capability. I can also limit the visibility, so I can come in and limit the visibility for an application to a particular group of users or user. And then we still have our file type association for content redirection. So I'll go ahead and just use all the content redirection so that if the user launches an application, a document that requires an application, it'll automatically come to the system. I'm going to click Apply on this, and then OK. And now the system has keyword mandatory. So I'm going to go in here and I'm going to refresh my applications. And if I did it right, it should pop up on the screen. Now this is a mandatory application. The user can come in and remove the application. And then the next time they log on, that application is going to pop right back onto the system. So this is one of the what we call keywords on the system. There's some additional keywords that we can use. We have another keyword that we can choose. I'll use this on Excel. If I don't want it to be mandatory, but I do want the user to have it when they first log on, I can create what's called an auto on the system, and this will come in and make it auto-published. So the user will come in, they will now see anything that has auto on it as well. It's not working today. So because I unsubscribed it already. That's right. So it'll be automatically published. I can also choose when I'm in the system, if I want to, I can create a keyword that will create what's called a featured application. And when we create a featured application, this will come up. Let's do publisher here. Make him auto. See if it's going to work in the system today or not. And auto. I'm going to cut a couple applications. Notice I got the keyword feature. I'll come over to the system here. I'm going to refresh my apps. Notice publisher automatically popped up. That's because he was a new application. The user does have a choice on an auto-publish application. If they remove it, it won't come back. But you'll notice I put featured on the Excel. If I come over here, this will put in a folder called feature. This is what we call our advertised applications. So when you have a new application, you can use that in the system as well. So this is some of the capabilities you have within inside a Studio for managing your applications. So that's the managing on our system. So now it's just a menu option, which is really nice. You can rapidly deploy new applications as you move forward. So with Storefront, some of the newer features from Storefront, we do have the capability to use the HTML5 engine, which allows you to circumvent the lack of a receiver on the system. We're also going to do parallel resource enumeration. So if you have multiple deployments of XenApp 6.5 farms, XenApp 7.5 farms, and desktop sites, you can come in and aggregate them on Storefront, and it will enumerate the applications in parallel. So we'll do it all at once rather than doing one at a time. We pass-through authentication for the receiver for web, smart card authentication, Netscaler, integrated with Netscaler on the system, the mandatory applications, as well as anonymous, unauthenticated access for some applications for the XenApp environment. So monitoring, that's our Citrix Director. We have that. This gives us our comprehensive monitoring and troubleshooting inside of our environment. You can correlate our end user experience for the day-to-day delivery for your help desk team. It will require you to set up some remote assistance configuration on your system. And it's all about the licensing, really. When you're looking at the XenApp 7.5 environment, this really is about licensing. And there are 6 levels of licensing in the whole family. The new FlexCast architecture is all based on the Xen desktop environment. So if you're experiencing any confusion about where is XenApp and where is Xen desktop, they all use the exact same infrastructure. You're going to have the exact same site database. You'll use the same controllers. All of it will be exactly the same infrastructure. What differs on the capabilities, it will be the licensing you get. And the XenApp 7.5 licensing is considered to be the advanced, the enterprise, and the platinum licensing, which gives you the capability to publish applications, publish server desktops, and give these out to your users using the same infrastructure that Xen Desktop 7.5 would use. If you then at a later time choose to update your licensing to a 7.5 platform, you'll then have the additional capabilities of the Xen Desktop environment, providing a client desktop to your users, personal VDIS, etc., and what you need inside that system. So it's all about the licensing and what you have to purchase in your environment. Now, you may have heard there are some features in development, and hopefully they're released this month for XenApp 7.6. These bring back some things that were there and aren't there anymore. We have session lingering. So we have session lingering, which in XenApp 6.5, when a user would close out a system, an application or a session, the session would linger on your servers, and then if the user launched another application within 60 minutes, they would then have the session already prepared and would give you a faster launch time. That was deprecated out. Now it's coming back. Pre-launch capabilities, the ability to pre-launch a session before the user ever actually comes in and gets an application. This allows your users faster log-on times for applications. So they're bringing that back, as well as application folder organization. These are expected to be released towards the end of the month. And what these guys are going to look like, you're going to see where you have session lingering on your system. This is where we have the capability of coming in and choosing an application and allowing it to linger on our system. So we have a delivery group. We can linger for however we want, minutes, hours, days, depending on what you want in your system. We've also got the ability to pre-launch application, which is similar to what we did in XenApp 6.5 by launching that CTX launch.exe. Now we have the ability to do the same thing, and we can choose to keep these launched for a period of time in our environment. And they're also bringing back folder organization inside the studio for your application. This is something that was being requested, so they're bringing back the ability to come in and organize your applications into folders based on what you want in your system, marketing, application sales, etc. So those are the options you have for some of the applications, and these are new features that are coming out. So that's XenApp 7.5 in a nutshell and some of the things you want to do in your system. So thank you. Rich now will be taking questions and relaying to me, and I'll try and answer the questions as rapidly and as fully as I can. Rich, over to you.
Okay, David, thank you very much. It looks like we only have 2 questions. Okay. And before we get to the questions, let me just mention a couple of things. So as David was going over this, these new features in XenApp 7.5, of course, there are a couple of training courses that, you know, are 5 days. So we go over these features in 45 minutes on the webinar, but the classes David teaches are 5 days. And there's 2 flavors of this training. One of the courses goes over the management of XenApp 7.5, and it also includes Xen Desktop in case you just want to publish desktops in addition to applications. And then the other course is deploying XenApp and Xen Desktop 7.5, and that's really if you were involved or wanted to have the knowledge to install and configure the environment from scratch. Whereas the management course is more where you're inheriting an environment, or you want to scale an environment, or you're not necessarily involved with the actual implementation. Maybe you've hired a consultant to do that, and you just want to step in and manage the day-to-day administrative duties of the environment. So so if anyone would like more information on those courses, our phone number is up on the slide here, our website, and my email address. Also, if you have any technical questions that you didn't ask in the session today, you can email those to me too, and I'll forward those over to David, and we'll reply to those for you. Okay? So so the two questions I have, David, does Director completely replace EdgeSite?
Yes and no. That's a yes and no answer. EdgeSite has been divided up between two components. We have EdgeSite for NetScaler, which will monitor your network components, and EdgeSite for Director, which will monitor your computers and your sessions running inside of your system. So it's broken up into two separate sessions. It is replacing EdgeSite. However, it doesn't have all the capabilities that the former EdgeSite have, such as email traps and messages to your system. Some of the reports are not there as well. So I'm looking forward to good things of that coming out. But yes, it will be replacing EdgeSite, but it's been broken up into two components.
Okay, and then the other question that I have is regarding NetScaler, and I don't know what was what part of the presentation this was covered in, David, but the question is, I thought you have to have a NetScaler to use HTML5 receiver.
No, not necessarily. You can use Storefront in your system. That'll work just fine. So that's fine. Yeah. No. You need NetScaler for load balancing, but for the HTML5, you can use it internally in your network.
Okay, excellent. I think those are the only two questions we have. Let me just make sure. Oh, no, we have one more, David. So let's see. This is about Storefront. So what should I be using in 7.5, web interface or Storefront? What direction is Citrix going?
Storefront. Web interface is being deprecated out in 2016. That's because the underlying core language is no longer being supported by Microsoft. So no new features will be added to web interface, whereas with Storefront, they'll be continually adding and upgrading the system until it's the mature product that web interface currently is. So the recommended implementation is to use Storefront.
Okay, excellent. Okay, so those are the only questions that were actually submitted. Let me just make sure no one's raising their hand here in the audience before we end. Okay, so I think that ends the webinar. We have recorded this session, and we're going to distribute a link to everyone that was in attendance. And you're more than welcome to forward that link on to coworkers or anyone else who you think might benefit from this information. So you should see that coming over in the next couple of days from us via email. And if there are no additional questions, we would like to thank you for taking the time out of your day to join this session. I also want to thank David for taking time out of his class and during his lunch hour to provide this webinar for us, and we hope to hear back from you or see you in one of our future classes. So thanks again, and we're going to go ahead and end the webinar.
Thank you, Rich. Thank you, everybody.